Okay, we are on the record this morning in the conduct file. There's a couple things set for today. There is the review, as well as, well, there's proceedings of both parents, let's put it that way. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Carson Howitt, lawyer, guardian ad litem.
Good morning, Your Honor. Nastasia Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Moore?
Macy Moore, foster care worker with Catholic Charities.
Michael Brooks, I represent the legal father, Christopher Cundiff.
Thank you. Have you heard from your client, Mr. Brooks?
I have not.
Be looking for Ms. Berger as it relates to Ellie Guerin, the mother. To see if she can join us a little bit early, because I think the proceedings for mom were scheduled to begin at 10:30 to allow for time for your client, Mr. Brooks. We're starting a little bit late. Would it be okay with you if we went forward with his hearing regardless of his absence?
No, I have no objection, Your Honor. I have encountered this situation countless times, and I don't anticipate him being there.
Very well. We'll look for a little testimony about whatever contacts from our caseworker. Ms. Thomas, is that where you'd like to begin?
Yes, Your Honor, we can, or if Mr. Howitt would like to provide his report. I don't know how you'd like to handle that part, but happy to do
Our
either way.
caseworker is chomping at the bit to get started. So let's let her go first, and then we'll go to Mr. Howitt.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
She can tell us a little bit about her attempts to get Mr. Cundiff to join us today as well, I hope. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Moore, for today's hearing related to both parents, you've submitted a court report, a brief court report with their proposed case service plans. Other than that packet of documents, have you submitted and or circulated anything else to the court or other attorneys?
No, I have not.
Okay, Ms. Thomas, before you go any further, I just want to allow Ms. Berger, who's joined us early, thank you so much, to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ariel Berker here on behalf of Mother. Thank
you. And do we have Ellie Guerin here with us? Thank you. Would you come on up and have a seat next to Mr. Brooks, please? All right, so at this point, we'll just consolidate the two review hearings for purposes of judicial economy and because Mr. Cundiff has not joined us. You haven't missed Mr. Howitt's report, Ms. Berger. Ms. Macy Moore was absolutely excited to testify this morning, so we're letting her go first.
Okay, no problem.
Ms. Thomas.
Thank you. Ms. Moore, so you've not provided any other documents. Are there any updates or modifications that you're aware of that need to be made to your court report?
I have just a few updates. And just for my clarification, I'm allowed to talk about both parents?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Just to try to avoid the child.
Perfect. So I did speak with Mr. Cundiff at 8:17 this morning, and he reported to me he was going to be here in person. So I am a little confused why he is not. He did confirm his parenting time for this afternoon as well. So I guess we'll see if we'll see him there. For Mr. Cundiff, a few updates is he remains on the Orchards Foster Care Supportive Visitation wait list. He should be next on the wait list. He has provided me with a Michigan driver's license, registration, and insurance. And then one new update for Mr. Cundiff is that there has been additional charges filed, but nothing has been picked up by the prosecutor's office yet. And then updates as it relates to Ms. Guerin is she has started virtual therapy at Intentional Counseling and Wellness. She is off of probation, and the adult foster care case is completely closed out. And then there is a program down in Pennsylvania that has a bed open for her, and it is a sex trafficking and exploitation, survivors program, and they do have a bed available today to take her. I think it would be a beneficial program. And then just a few updates as it relates to the child. She is growing like a weed lately, well adjusted to the home, no concerns there. She basically just moved homes with the same caregiver, so she was used to her caregiver. And then the main concern with her is that she's pretty refluxy after she eats, but she has a doctor's appointment on the 27th of next week, so they'll be bringing that up. That is all of my updates, though.
And I believe today she's scheduled for the DNA testing. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And has a proper, and I know the last time that DNA was attempted, it could not be done because a proper person did not take her. Has transportation been secured for her?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And then as it relates to the parents' compliance with and benefit from their case service plan, can you give us a little bit, can you summarize what that is like for them during this review period?
Yeah, I think it's going. It's a slow start. Everybody's kind of getting their toes in the water is kind of how I would explain it. I would say we're getting there. We're not fully running, but we're definitely starting.
And what are some of the barriers to reunification at this point in time for each parent?
Some of the barriers include just mental health counseling and well-being. That's one of my main concerns. We have some pending criminal charges as it relates to the father. And then, could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just asked what the barriers to reunification are for each of the parents.
Okay, and then housing is a big one as well as it relates to both parents. If Miss Guerin stays in Michigan, if she returns to Pennsylvania, housing's not as big of a concern. And that is all I can really think of on the top of my head without reviewing my report.
Are the parents, during parenting time, are they appropriate with the child?
They are appropriate, and they are both very accepting of like tips and tricks, like saying, try holding her this way. They're both very receptive of that.
Okay. Do you believe that either of them would be ready to transition to unsupervised parenting time?
I do not believe so. I would like to see the foster care supportive visitation kind of start and get going before we head that direction.
As it relates to mom, the report, and I believe kind of during this review period in general, there's been some conversations or concerns about whether mom would be able to go to Pennsylvania with her parents and guardians. Do you have a formal request at this time as to what you believe would be in mom's best interest? And if it's to go to Pennsylvania, how does the agency intend on supporting her through that goal of reunification?
Yes, I would recommend that her returning with her guardians to Pennsylvania would be what's in her best interest. I believe that they would be able to support her the best. And the agency would be able to do every other week. If they wanted to drive up, we could do weekend visits with the family. And then the weeks that they do not come up, we could do FaceTime visits with the mother and the child.
Okay. And I know that you had submitted an ICPC request. Do you have any updates as of today?
I don't have many updates. I know that the Pennsylvania worker was able to go out to the Guerin's home and conduct the home visit, but I have not received a report back yet.
Okay. If during this review period, ICPC confirms and approves the placement with the grandparents in Pennsylvania, what would be the agency's plan to support reunification with Mr. Cundiff?
Um,
And it's okay if you haven't discussed that yet. I just was wondering if you've thought about that.
I have not thought about it. I believe my supervisor has thought about it a little deeper than I have. I was just kind of worried about the issues at hand. So that is something that we would have to look into.
When you reported that Mr. Cundiff is potentially, or I think maybe the best way to explain this is law enforcement has submitted for additional charges against dad, correct?
Correct.
But the prosecuting attorney has not formalized or authorized those charges. Is that correct, to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my knowledge, I believe that the officer who wrote up the report is meeting with the prosecutors tomorrow.
Okay. And based on your knowledge of the police report, is there any allegation that this child would have been born to an assault against the mother?
I object. There's nothing here that the court can take cognizance of. It's a rumor. And there's nobody here to support it firsthand. Even though I know we're in a review hearing, I mean, that's just, there's nothing there until there is something here.
Any response?
Your Honor, I believe it's relevant, given the fact that we have a parent who may be residing in a different state. The agency is required to provide reasonable efforts towards reunification to both parents, not just one. However, if there's concern about one of the parents being physically or sexually abusive and what that might mean for the child and reunification goal, I think it is relevant. And I know the rules of evidence don't apply, and so I'm just wondering what information Ms. Moore has at this time to help guide us.
Well, I think the allegation that the child could have been born as a result of an assault is too speculative at this point. I would be happy to hear about any additional charges that have been requested against Mr. Cundiff or anything else that's pending, or any other sources that may be available to us, like a police report, in order to speak to such a risk. But I do agree with Mr. Brooks that I think at this point it's a bit speculative.
Yeah. Ms. Moore, the police report that you've provided me, have you circulated that to the LJL or anyone else?
I do not, but I have 5 copies with me currently.
Do you believe that the information contained in the report that you reviewed would be beneficial for the court to have and for the other attorneys to have?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I ask the court if we can circulate those reports at this time?
Any objections?
Reports from who?
It's a police report on the investigation into Christopher Cundiff.
How is that any different than what my objection is?
Mr. Cundiff has just appeared to us. If you just have a seat in the front row, please.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Okay, so the
I
objection.
mean, I realize the DHS attorney wants to get this in, but you know what? We all know this is not going to be an overnight hearing or anything like that, and there's plenty of time to do it properly, and this is not the proper time.
Further objections from you, Mr. Howitt?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Berger, any objections?
No, I would just ask that if it's distributed, someone email it to me.
Okay. Ms. Thomas, would you like to respond to that objection?
Your Honor, I fully respect Mr. Brooks' position at this time. Based on the email thread that I'm part of from Ms. Moore, she received this on Friday, and so being able to circulate it beforehand is a little difficult. I will defer to the court and, obviously follow the court's instruction on whether or not it's proper to provide that information now or wait until the next hearing. And I'm sure at that point in time, we'd also have more information from the prosecuting office as well.
Thank you. I am going to overrule the objection. Hearsay is allowed under the court rules, and the criminality aspect of Mr. Cundiff's case was clearly a part of the initial adjudication. So for our purposes today, I think for continued review of those allegations and the investigation and the current progress of the case is certainly relevant, and it's not quite as speculative as simply just the allegations that Ms. Macy Moore was trying to share with us earlier. I'm going to receive it, but I will reserve to Mr. Brooks and to all of our attorneys the right to cross-examination on this exhibit in future hearings. So Deputy Ames, well, Ms. Moore, actually, if you don't have it right there, this second.
It's right there.
Is it in the clip?
Yep, in the black clip, underneath the 2 documents.
If you could take those documents up to Ms. Moore and let her give you exactly what she'd like you to circulate. The police report is being admitted into evidence, so we'll need Mr. Howitt and Mr. Brooks to have a copy, as well as myself. There's some copies there.
Oh,
Yep, all of them are separate.
Thank you, Ms.
Of course.
All right, any more questions, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you.
But just based on the criminality component, Ms. Moore, do you have any concerns about allowing continued supervised parenting time with Mr. Cundiff, or do you believe that there are sufficient safeguards in place for the child at this time?
I believe that there is sufficient safeguards for the child at this time.
Great. And is there anything else from your court report or your knowledge of the case that you'd like the court to be aware of?
Nothing further.
Thank you. With that, Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Moore. Would just formally move for the court to accept the court report with the case service plans attached. Thank you.
Objections?
No,
No, Your Honor.
No objection.
Thank you. The court report is received with the case service plans. Questions for this witness, Ms. Berger?
Not at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
I have a couple of questions for you. Give me a sense of the geography we're talking about here. This young lady seated to my right is now living in Pennsylvania.
No, we are requesting that that be the case.
I see. Where does she live?
She is just floating around hotels.
Oh, I thought she had a guardian.
Yep, but she's not, the guardians live in Pennsylvania and she can't return with them to Pennsylvania. So we're requesting that occur.
Where in Pennsylvania does this guardian live?
I can't recall the town, honestly.
What's it near?
I could not tell you. I'm not good with geography.
You do recognize it's a big state.
I do understand that, yes.
On the east, it borders New York City,
Correct.
and on the west, it's in the Appalachian Mountains.
Yes.
I have family out there. All right. So if this young lady's, or if the father finds himself with the child in Pennsylvania, he's got some serious travel issues, doesn't he?
Correct.
He lives in Michigan.
Correct.
But all those things are going to get decided at another date here, right?
I believe so.
All right, the next and last question I have is, I understand that he is the legal father. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Oh, there's still going to be DNA testing?
Correct.
Why is that?
I'm not sure if my understanding is it was ordered during the DD case. And then it fell onto me. So I scheduled DNA testing and that's why, that's as far as I'm aware.
Do you support that DNA testing?
I don't think it hurts either way.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Mr. Howard, any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. What services is Mr. Cundiff currently participating in?
Off the top of my head, he does parenting time every day or every Monday and Wednesday. And then he also has been doing the CPC parenting classes weekly. And those are all I can recall off the top of my head without.
Are those in-person classes? Or?
The CPC ones are in person.
All right, and then I saw in the court report that he hasn't been to the domestic violence group and the counseling with CMH. Is that an issue with a referral, or is that an issue with him not participating?
I believe the CMH referral is just an issue with him not participating. And then the John Bailey referral, he reported, I believe last week to our visit aide that he has had troubles getting a hold of John Bailey.
And then if, excuse me, if he remains on the Orchards wait list, is there another alternative service that can be provided to him that may be available sooner?
Yes and no. There's a Wells Springs foster care supportive visitation program as well, but they most likely have a wait list as well. So there's not any specific watch your visit, because the reason I like the foster care supportive visitation is that it's a hands-on at the parenting time. So those two are our only options for hands-on at parenting time.
And then all of his visitation has taken place in the conference room at DHHS?
Correct.
Is there another place that visitation could occur?
There is another place visitation could occur, but we have it set up so parents stagger visits so that they don't run into each other.
And then as far as Miss Guerin, I know you said she's living in a hotel with one of her guardians coming and going. What have you guys done or looked into to explore other living arrangements for her in Michigan?
Oh goodness, I think between me and Randy Welch from Adult Protective Services, I think we called every home in southeastern Michigan. I know we've even got up to Grand Rapids, so I think we've called basically every homeless shelter, any women's group home possible in the state of Michigan, and all of them told us no.
And then as far as Ms. Guerin's services, she's just doing the therapy and the visitation.
Correct. And then she is also on the wait list for foster care supportive visitation, but she is under Mr. Cundiff.
Is she engaged in any parenting classes?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Is there virtual parenting classes that she could do, whether it be if she were to move back to Pennsylvania or be here, that you could help her get involved with?
I could definitely look into it. And then I know we have some Bavlock parenting courses as well that I could provide to her.
Nothing further.
Okay. So Ellie Gehring is under the jurisdiction of the court in the probate court case, yes. You're aware of that?
Oh, no, I wasn't. I thought that was all dropped.
So that's how she's in a guardianship. She's in a Michigan guardianship. And the letters of authority in that case and a recent motion were to, well, the letters of authority indicate that she's required to stay in Michigan in order to cooperate with case services and to allow her to visit with her daughter for purposes of working towards reunification. There was a recent motion that was denied to allow her to return to Pennsylvania, given that it would appear that Ms. Gehring would like to continue to move towards reunification and would need to be able to be here to visit with her child to work towards those goals. Secondarily, I would like to know, well, and given that I'm giving you this information now, my questions will be a little premature for you.
Okay.
But here are my concerns in short. So Michigan Guardianship Authority ends at the Michigan state line.
Okay.
If the court were to allow the guardians to take Ellie out of the state of Michigan, there is nothing that would require her to stay with the guardians at that point or to stay in the program that you've arranged with her. Obviously, at the outset of the case, we found Ellie abandoning a program in order to meet up with Mr. Cundiff and get herself into the situation that she's in now. My concern in granting a request to send her back to Pennsylvania without any authority granted in Pennsylvania is that we may find ourselves in the same situation.
Right.
Would you be willing to work with the guardians to find out whether or not and how guardianship authority or the equivalent thereof could be accomplished in Pennsylvania?
Absolutely.
Did I hear you correctly that the investigation into their home in Pennsylvania has not been concluded yet?
The home study has been done, like the worker came out, finished the home study, but the report has not been finalized yet. So I don't know the answer of that.
So have you spoken to the person who did the home study?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Prior to her doing the home study, I did, but not since.
All right. Assuming that the guardians have established their authority in Pennsylvania with Ellie, and that home study demonstrates that the home that she lives in with the support of her guardians doesn't present a risk of harm if the court were to reunify Ellie with her daughter. Is that something that you're considering?
Can you repeat yourself?
Assuming that the guardians establish authority for Ellie in Pennsylvania as guardians, and assuming that the home study comes back that there's no concerns with their household in Pennsylvania, is there a risk of harm associated with returning this child to the parent, Ellie, in Pennsylvania?
I do not believe so, no.
Thank you. Questions on redirect or anything else, Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, this may be inappropriate at this time. I just would like the court to know that I had, during this review period, I had a conversation with mom's attorney in the DD case regarding how to, I'm going to refer to this as registering the orders of authority in Pennsylvania. It does not seem that we have, or Michigan is part of like a UCC JEA equivalent for guardianships. We did look into that and whether we had some sort of interstate compact to allow us to do that. So it is on our radar. And I will happily guide Ms. Moore and work with Mr. Amadeo on that issue for the family. But other than that, Your Honor, I have no further questions about that particular issue.
All right. Any questions based on my questions or recross, Ms. Berger?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
I have a question for the court. Your question concerning this young lady and living with the guardian, does it presume that the mother and the infant would both reside with the guardian, or is there something more nebulous about the arrangement?
He would assume that if the child was returned, that Ms. Ellie would be residing in the home with the guardians and that home is safe for the child.
That's all. Thank you.
Questions, Mr. Howell?
No, nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you for your testimony. Maybe you should proceed. Any other witnesses today, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Witness testimony today, Ms. Berger?
Ellie, would you like to testify today?
She's no. Can you say it one more time so she can hear you?
Okay, thank you. I have no witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, I understand that Mr. Cundiff is now here.
He's sitting right behind you.
Hi. You want to testify?
Yes, I would.
Okay, come on up to our witness stand.
All right.
Miss, why don't we allow Ellie to take a break in the hallway during the testimony of Mr. Condon? It was our intention to have the review hearings scheduled separately. Anyway, so she doesn't need to be here for his testimony. Thank you. Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Cundiff, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
You've been here for the testimony so far, right?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry if I was late. I was told it was at 10:30, but if I was confused, I do apologize.
Sorry. Have you been cooperating with the department in the case service plan that they've laid out for you?
Yes, sir.
Are you, and this is frequently a problem in these cases, are you getting along with people you're working with?
Yeah, I would say we really don't have much conversation at all, no interaction. Even during parenting times, not much is said unless I have to sign the paperwork. It's just pretty much silent the entire time. There's no communication there.
No news is good news, Mr. Cundiff.
All right.
You've heard the long-term plan for this young lady who is sitting next to me to move to Pennsylvania?
Yes, sir.
Where in Pennsylvania, if you know?
That would be Easton, PA.
Easton, Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's over by Philly, isn't it?
Yes, I believe it's closer to the New York area.
Yeah, it's about as far as east as you can go in
Yes.
Pennsylvania. Thank you for that. What's your opinion of the mother and child living in Easton, Pennsylvania?
I really wouldn't personally be comfortable with that, knowing I'm biological father due to many factors.
How far away is Easton, if you know?
Honestly, I don't have any idea. I believe it's about 8 hours for Ellie would have said her parents had to drive to come out here at some point.
And you'd have to cross a mountain range.
Yes.
Where is the child now?
She is with my husband's mother. So her mother.
You don't have a husband, do you?
No.
So
My sister, not her, my sister's husband's mother-in-law. So my sister's mother-in-law.
okay. And how far is that from where you live?
About 30 minutes.
And where do you live?
I live in Addison, Michigan.
So right now, we're talking about the potential of the father living in Addison, Michigan, and the child and the child's mother residing possibly in Easton, Pennsylvania. Do you think that's a workable plan?
No, not currently because I am out on bond. I have a GPS tether on my left ankle right now. I'm now going through a HIDA case right now, so all of it won't be public, but it will be found through law enforcement, things like that. So I will be on upstairs probation here in December, so that would be a huge issue with travel at any time throughout the next couple of years. I'd say with 2 to 4 years, it would be a major issue to travel.
Is this because of the allegations that have been floating around here this morning?
I'm not sure what was said this morning. It would have nothing to do with this case. It would have to do with the case prior that I was being charged with a felonious assault that I've accepted a plea deal to, but I am cooperating.
I see. Do you know anything about the one that they're referring to today? I don't want the details.
I do not.
All right. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like the court to know?
Other than if you have any other questions, no, sir.
I have no further questions, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Thomas, any questions?
No, excuse me, no, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Berger, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Howard?
Yes, just briefly. Have you engaged with community mental health to start individualized therapy?
I've not engaged with them. I got the slip. I wasn't sure because they said there was 2 of them. I was waiting on a referral, so I wasn't sure which one I was waiting on the referral for. I got the referral, which is on November 11th, which I do plan to attend as scheduled. And then I can call CMH anytime, which is in the building. We did the DNA test and we do the visits in, so I could stop in tonight or even not tonight, right after the visitation today, if it was that big of a concern. Like if it needs to be done immediately, I can definitely do that today.
And Ms. Moore discussed your interactions with Mr. John Bailey and not being able to get a hold of him.
Yes, and in the past, I've been referred to him in cases that I was alleged domestic violence, and I had to do a Zoom with him. I paid him the $50 for the Zoom. He never sent me the Zoom link or contacted me further. Other than that, that's really the only communication I've ever had with him. I was just referred to him. Case was dropped. Like the charges were dismissed, so nothing came of it. And then after I PayPal'd him the money for the counseling session, I never heard anything back from him.
Would you be open to engaging with him or another domestic violence?
Yes, I would be open to engaging with him if he's willing to answer. I've called him a couple of times within the past, like whenever I reported that, past couple of weeks prior to that, and he hasn't responded.
How do you think the visits are going with?
They're going well. They're going well.
Are you okay with this format of the visits right now?
In what aspect do you?
Like the location, the place, the nature of the visit?
I mean, I'd prefer it to be somewhere else because when Ellie was doing it on her own, when I was in jail, it was reported to be done at Catholic Charities. It just seems more like a relaxed, comfortable environment, not such a business type area. More like a relaxed area, more like a house in that sense, to where you can be more comfortable with your child than be right out the door and hear a bunch of people working on their cases with DHS.
Sounds good. Nothing perfect.
Okay. Any redirect, Mr. Brooks?
No, Your Honor, I'd simply ask the witness if, when you're done,
Yes, sir.
have a seat next to me.
You may return your seat.
All right.
Any other witnesses, Mr. Brooks?
None.
Mr. Howard? Comments in closing, beginning with Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think at this time, obviously the goal for unification remains appropriate. I think that there are referrals set for both parents to help address those barriers for unification and the conditions that cause a child to come into care. I also think that we're still sort of at this investigation stage of the case. The interstate compact and having parents in 2 different states does pose an issue. However, once the abuse and neglect case is closed out, I think that would be more appropriate for the family courts to figure out. And there is obviously going to need to be, in order for custody, parents do live in different states quite often. And I think that the agency is willing to support mom in the goal of reunification if this court was to grant her the ability to leave. I understand the legal ramifications and what needs to happen in order for that to be a possibility. But I think that we are making some headway and at least have a bigger plan for this family. And I think at this time, it's most appropriate to continue status quo until we can figure out how to either register the letters of authority in Pennsylvania and or establish a guardianship there somehow and make it transfer. I don't know the logistics of that yet, but it is something that's on our radar. Other than that, Your Honor, we would just ask that the court continue to order the supervised parenting time. It seems that the Orchard's parenting time program would be really good for both of these parents. And I think that a standard 90-day review would be beneficial as well. Thank you.
Any comments, Ms. Berger?
Thank you, Your Honor. We would just ask for another review period and allow time for hopefully the ICPC to go through and to continue into the investigation, like Ms. Thomas stated. My client's goal is still reunification. I know that that's what she wants, and that's what the department is trying to support. So we have no objection to another review period being scheduled. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
I don't think it comes as any surprise that I will be anticipating objecting to a move to eastern Pennsylvania. As I said, I am familiar with that state, and that's a long way from where we're sitting right now. Over the mountains, across the plains, and up to suburban New York City, where that child's gonna live. And this guy lives in Edison, Michigan. That's not what's best for my client, nor do I believe it's best for the infant who can't possibly become acquainted with his father, her father, with that distance challenge. And for that reason alone, I say it's not in the interest of the child. Thank you.
Mr. Howard, I look forward to your comments as well as your report.
Yes, sir. I was able to meet with the child on September 29th, 2025 in person during a parenting time session that took place with her father. The parenting time location is just, kind of in this conference room. There are some books and toys, but just not really an organic way to conduct parenting time. And I know there are some limitations with the staggering of visits, but just really not the most organic way. But Mr. Cundiff always does his best to get the most out of it. This is the second parenting time I've observed with him. He's always upbeat and excited to see his daughter. I spent this visit really reading a book to her, and the child impressed me with her kind of attention span. She was always like looking at the pictures. So that was evidence of meeting some developmental milestones during the visit, just like tracking, which was nice to see. I'm excited for this Orchards programming to start. I know we've been waiting on it for quite some time now, but I think it'll just allow for some more organic visits, as Mrs. Moore put it, just like a hands-on way to conduct visitation and learn some new parenting techniques. In the meantime, I think I'd encourage Mr. Cundiff to bring a blanket or something padded and, do some activities on the floor to allow the child to participate in tummy time, or just, being on the floor to change it up a little bit. Right now, it's like kind of sitting on a couch, but you'd be simulating more of a home-like environment if you're able to go on like a carpet or a floor. But, I've talked with the current placement about the child, and, she's, experienced in child rearing, and she said she really doesn't have any concerns for the child. She's just in this fussy phase. And they're gonna go check out with the reflex doctor and hopefully get an answer there. But she said it was nothing that she couldn't handle, and nothing that she hasn't seen before with her kids or grandparents or grandkids. At this point, I believe it is in the child's best interest to remain in that current placement. As far as mom goes, I have not met with mom this reporting period, but I've had some extensive conversations with her mother and current guardian, Miss Tanya Guerin. And I think we've talked a lot about the lack of options for her in Michigan today. So I do think it would be best for her to return to Pennsylvania. And really, as I see her moving to Pennsylvania, I see it more to focus on herself. She's got a lot of work to do with mental health and just overall parental instincts, and just kind of getting into this more normal routine. Right now she's living in a hotel and has been, and her parents tell I just can't imagine if there's any normalcy that can be established there. The program that her parents have identified for her in Pennsylvania seems like a really good one to get her back up on her feet. They have the mental health treatment, but they also do, I was told they do like a workshop, like they have like a store there that the patients kind of help run. So just those kinds of things I think would be really good for her, and to focus on herself, not as much reunificate, or in positioning herself to be in a position to reunification with the child. The guardians have discussed coming back to Michigan for bi-weekly visits, and then of course doing some virtual visits as well. So I think that would be a more appropriate, path. I would caution just moving the child right now to Pennsylvania or whenever the ICPC request goes through, while we're still in reunification efforts with dad. I think that would really hinder his potential to reunify with this child. But overall, I do think, it'd be best for Ellie or Miss Guerin to return to Pennsylvania and really focus on herself, to put herself in a position to be able to parent this child in a long-term capabilities. I don't think that's something that's happening here in Michigan with the current situation, and I'd be happy to help support some of that guardianship transfer and anything of that nature. But overall, I think it's in the child's best interest to remain with the current placement, and both parents and especially dad to start engaging in some of those services through CMH or John Bailey or whatever domestic violence classes that he can find. Just more work on themselves this next reporting period. The child did not express her wishes due to her age. Thank you.
Thank you. The court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's review hearing. The child is in the safest and least restrictive circumstances. As Ms. Guerin attempts to undertake some services and look at arranging housing and residency in Pennsylvania, which is what I've heard expressed by everyone. But to be perfectly honest, Ms. Berger, I'd like you to talk with her and see if you can find out what her actual intentions are and what her preferences would be. In this case, obviously, we have some guardians that have a very strong motivation, understandably so, to allow their daughter to return to Pennsylvania. But as I articulated during the course of the cross-examination and voir dire of Ms. Macy Moore, the court has significant concerns in allowing that to happen without any authority established in Pennsylvania. I'd also like to know if she actually wants to go back to Pennsylvania at this time without her daughter, understanding the limitations that would come with around visitation with her daughter. So if you could meet with her so that the court can better understand her position and the position of the guardians in this matter, I would appreciate it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Pardon me, Your Honor.
Yes. Your name, please.
Tanya Guerin, Eliana's mother and guardian.
Eliana, or, okay, that's her full name, I take it?
Yes.
Okay, come on up to our podium. Deputy, would you swear her in, please?
Raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I'm sorry, your name one more time?
Tanya Guerin,
Ms.
Eliana's
Guerin.
mom and guardian.
Yes, I'm glad you're here today. What efforts have you made in order to secure authority as the equivalent of a guardian for your daughter in Pennsylvania?
I have spoken to Judge Corey out in Northampton County. And I've also spoken with people from the Orphans Court, which is also the probate court there in Northampton County. I've received paperwork, which I can initiate today, that I didn't start yet due to Ellie still being here in Michigan. I was hoping, after speaking with you and getting the information from all other parties involved, that the program that we mentioned out in Pennsylvania would be good placement for her while that process of the guardianship in Pennsylvania take place.
Okay, do you understand that without authority as a guardian in Pennsylvania or wherever that program is at, that Ellie has no requirement to stay there and you have absolutely no authority to enroll her in it or ask her to complete it?
Yes, and I understand, Your Honor. She actually reached out to that organization herself, and she's expressing her desire to return home due to the trauma that she's endured out here. Not sure if it was brought to your attention, but she has a swastika that was tattooed on her.
Your Honor,
And multiple tattoos. She's received 53 tattoos.
There's
since
been an
she's
objection. And I'd like you to go ahead and express that, Mr. Brooks.
the scope of my objection is taking shots at my client at this point is not within the scope of your questioning. Your focus is on what are they doing to move this process forward. Not that they don't like my client, which we already know.
Yes, that was part of the initial disposition and the adjudication process. I'm well aware of the facts and circumstances in this case. Also aware of the motion that you filed in the guardianship case asking to relocate your child to Pennsylvania. I'm also aware that the reason she got here to Michigan in the first place is because she was enrolled in some other program and left that program voluntarily because you didn't have guardianship and wound up in Michigan in the situation under the circumstances that you now find yourself in. So I just want you to understand that under no circumstances am I allowing your daughter to move back to Pennsylvania, whether it's in a guardianship case or this case, until you've established the authority to keep her safe in your care. Do you have any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Anyone else have questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Does anyone have any comments to Taylor based on the testimony of this last witness?
No.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, counselors. All right, so as a result of those circumstances that surround Ms. Ellie Guerin at the moment, as well as the fact that she doesn't have stable housing here in Michigan at the time, and that the department cannot find that it's a safe and stable environment with mom in the state of Michigan at the moment, the child will remain in foster care placement. We also asked the department to look at Ms. Ellie Guerin's circumstances here in Michigan to determine whether or not return to this parent in the care of her guardians would present a risk of harm in the state of Michigan pending the next review. As it relates to Mr. Cundiff, I'm glad to hear he's engaged in services. We'll need to continue to understand what's happening with this criminal case, criminal charges, and the services that he's working on, especially around those allegations of criminality. Aaron Kim appears to be doing fine, and I hope to see that expand over the course of the next report period, assuming that serves the best interest of the child and continues not to pose a risk of harm. In the meantime, the child will remain in her foster care placement that is the safest and least restrictive under the circumstances. Look for some answers to my questions and the other developments in our next review. I would offer to you, by way of date and time, January the 13th, 2026. And I'd like to schedule the review for Ellie Guerin at 1:30 and the review for Christopher Cundiff at 2:30 to try to avoid the overlap. No violations for Mr. Cundiff as far as any bond conditions that may be in place and to avoid any further trauma to Ms. Guerin. It'll be a permanency planning hearing in addition to the review schedule. The treatment reports should be separate for each parent as well. Court reports on updates. Ms. Macy Moore, also please keep those separate just based on some of the trauma that's happened to safeguard Ms. Guerin against that and to safeguard any violations of Mr. Cundiff as well as any potential abuse of that information being transferred given the history of the case. Unless there's any questions, that's all for today.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, briefly, Your Honor, my calendar shows that we have another hearing scheduled for the 13th at 1:30.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 12th. I meant to schedule for the afternoon of
Okay.
the 12th.
I'm sorry if I misheard that.
Thank you.
The 12th,
Yes, it'll be the 12th. It's a Monday.
12th of November.
I'm subpoenaed for a trial upstairs.
Excuse me, Mike.
It's January.
January?
It's 12th of January?
You have a trial scheduled on the 12th of January?
No, next one.
Okay, this is January.
Okay.
12th of
January?
January.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry about that.
Hey, sorry.
Everyone's, okay. I think we're on the same page now. January 12th at 1:30 for Ms. Guerin, 2:30 for Mr. Cundiff. Any other questions?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for your time and efforts. The order will contain the rest of the findings.
Michael McFarland, attorney guardian at Lightfoot.
Good morning, Honorable. William Amadeo, P7619 for legal Ellie Garrett, who is, right.
And your name?
Michael Brooks, I'm not sure I even need to be here, but I represent Mr. Cundiff, but not on her this young lady's guardianship position.
That's true. As I was going to make sure I mentioned this as well, and I'm looking up the case number right now. There is a companion case that involves Ms. Guerin under the abuse and neglect docket.
On that, I know I'm involved.
Yes. I think we have some other Zoom participants as well that are here out of that case. But let's have your names first.
Ellie Gowan.
Tanya Guerin, Ellie's mother and guardian.
Thank you. All right, so the other case number that is concerned by today's hearings is case number 25-061NA, the singular daughter of Ms. Ellie Guerin, who is currently in foster care. Do you have anybody from the department that would like to give us their names for the record as it relates to today's proceedings?
I can, if you would like me to, Your Honor.
Very good, go ahead.
I'm Macy Moore, foster care worker with Catholic Charities.
Thank you, and I'm glad you're here today because I know at our last hearing in the abuse and neglect case, there were some options being explored as far as how to allow for this to be accomplished, but also in a way that considers what's happening in the abuse and neglect file and both Ellie's best interest and her daughter's best interest. So thank you for coming. I'm sure we'll get to you. Okay, all right. Deputy Ames, would you swear in Tanya Guerin, Ellie Guerin, and Macy Moore, please?
Remain seated or raise your right hands, please. Each of you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Tanya Guerin, this is your petition, so I'd like to give you the opportunity to go first. What would you like to say to the court today?
Just say that Ellie has been doing well with, she took her first parenting course on Zoom, and she's excited to complete that 3 virtual class so that she could do a 10-week virtual individualized parenting course. And she's been actively doing her Zoom counseling, and she's just really excited with the prospect of coming home so that she can get her old job back. So she's really on the right frame of mind to come back home and hopefully, you know, just be in a better place mentally, physically.
Questions from our attorneys?
Any questions?
I do. It sounds as though, and I'll verify this with Ms. Moore, who I'll be calling, but that most of her requirements on the abuse and neglect and abuse case, the NA case, that most of these are Zoom, that you can continue uninterrupted in Pennsylvania. Is that correct?
That's
okay. You've been living in a hotel, either you or your husband. You've been alternating with her here in Lenawee County. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay. I know you've been in quite constant communication with me early on in the case regarding trying to locate a facility for her. Were you able to do that?
We were not. And in fact, she had a Zoom interview with the placement back in Bangor, Pennsylvania, about 20 minutes from our home called Bloom, which their model's very similar to SOAR's. And they did tell her that she would not be a candidate, but they did have a list of other resources that we could look into, day programs and things like that. I also, in this interim, had reached out to our Division of Human Services to get resources. So in the event that she is permitted to come home to Pennsylvania, I could look into what would be most appropriate.
Well, you kind of jumped ahead because you're going a little bit beyond what I asked.
Sure.
So let me ask, you're moving into that. You're living with her right now, a parent is. If she were to return to Pennsylvania, would she be living in your home with you?
That's the goal.
Okay. And her visits, how would those be accomplished here in Michigan with the child?
We have spoken with Macy, and we could do every 2-week in-person visitation, and in those spaces in between, we could do a Zoom session with the baby.
Okay. Has there been any issues with the biological father and your daughter and attempting to communicate to her, influence her, anything of that nature that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, but Deputy Jones has been in contact with the prosecutor here to file charges against him for things that occurred when they were together.
Okay, so Deputy Jones advised you that he's seeking warrants against father. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. So she may be a potential witness in a criminal case. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Okay. Have you attempted to secure guardianship in Pennsylvania or see what the requirements are in Pennsylvania?
I have We have a hearing actually on the 18th, which is part of why we're here and requesting to be able to take Ellie home so that she may attend that hearing in person.
Okay, okay. So what have you petitioned for in the state of Pennsylvania?
For the plenary guardianship of Ellie.
Okay, okay. And do you have any paperwork with you today?
I do not, but it was sent out here.
You're telling me that it was sent to the clerk's office across the hall?
Correct.
Court file. Okay. Do you know, have you talked to somebody at the clerk's office to see if they've received it?
Here?
Yeah.
Yes, Audrey has received it.
Thank you.
I just realized I have it.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. Okay. I wanted to make
Debbie,
sure.
did you make a copy of this for Mr. McFarland, Mr. Brooks, and Mr. Amadeo, please? Do you need a copy as well? Here,
No, thank you.
3 copies.
Got it. Thank you.
Can you tell us in general how your daughter's doing?
She's in a much better spot mentally. And were not easy in the very beginning, as I'm sure everyone had witnessed when we were first appointed the guardianship. Very distraught and kind of still under, I would say, Mr. Cundiff's control. And since then, she's just done nothing but expressed how much she wants to get more help and be able to have a job and return to some sort of normalcy.
Okay. Lastly, I know there's been a financial burden on you and your husband that you've explained to me why I interviewed you. Describe that in just a little detail about us having her in a hotel here.
Just between my husband and I going back and forth and spending money on hotels, it's a lot. It's very draining financially. It's emotionally stressful for all of us.
Is there other family other than her immediate mother and father there in Pennsylvania?
My parents just went back to Florida, but they're there with us several months out of the year, and her older sister would love to see her.
Gotcha. So she has a sister. I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Any questions, Mr. Brooks?
I have one question of Ms. Garrett. If I may.
Yes.
Ma'am, it's a simple question. Are you pregnant at this time?
No.
Thank you. That's all.
Very well. Anything else that you wanted to share with us, Tanya, Karen? Okay. Well, before I put Macy Moore on the spot, gentlemen, do you have any preference on who or if we take testimony from anyone else in the room?
Ellie, do you want to testify today?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I'm sure. I think they're asking if you would like to go home. I think they want your opinion on the matter.
Let's let Mr. Amadeo spearhead the questioning of his client, please.
Yeah, and so Ellie, to be clear, I would like to hear some things from you if you'd be willing to testify briefly.
Yeah.
Will you do that?
Yep, and she can stay right where she's at.
Okay.
Okay, Ellie.
She has been.
So I'm just going to ask you a few questions, okay? Is it true that you want to go back to Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Is it true you think it would be in your best interest to go back to Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Is it true you think it would be in your child's best interest to have your mother and father emotionally support you?
Yes.
Okay, and do you think it'd be better for your family financially? This is probably more of a question for Tanya, but do you think financially it'd be best for you to be in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
And I want to be very clear before Judge Sala makes her decision when she analyzes this. Is this of your own free will?
Yes.
Okay, this is what you want, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
Should reflect. Copies of the pleadings that were filed in Pennsylvania are being circulated to the attorneys.
Acknowledge I've received it, Your Honor.
Acknowledge, thank you, Judge.
Ms. Moore will make sure you get a copy of these as well, unless you have them already.
I do not. I would appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Ellie Garrett?
It's just looking at the heading of their court. It's the Orphans Court Division. It's okay.
All right, Ms. Moore, I'd like to go to you next. Part of what we had discussed in the context of the abuse and neglect matter last time we were here in court was, number one, the status of any home investigation in Pennsylvania that was being done as a courtesy through the cooperation of your department and the equivalent department in Pennsylvania. but also the option to return the child to Ellie, understanding that she is in a guardianship and her guardians would by extension assist in the responsibilities of caretaking for her child. I'd like to hear from you on the status of those things, as well as your thoughts on today's request for her to relocate.
Yes, so I can start with the ICPC. It's the Interstate Compact request. I have not received a report yet, but I do know that all of the home visits have been completed. So I believe the worker in Pennsylvania is just kind of finishing that up, typing it away. And then for her returning to Pennsylvania, I do think it would be in the best interest. I think me and everybody on her family, like Ellie and her mother, communicate frequently and consistently, so that's not a concern. And we could even get some in-person like referrals made for Pennsylvania if in-person is better than online. And then what was the last question?
Oh, yes. Practically speaking, your thoughts about the relocation, but as you were updating me on the investigation, I came up with a few more questions. So if you want to let me know what you think about the formally, or if you have any other thoughts about the relocation request. Now, that was the last question I had asked.
Okay, so yeah, I think it would be best for Ellie to go down right now with her parents, and then I think get a little bit more services in for everybody, and then we can kind of look at placement for the minor child. But I think worrying about getting Miss Guerin down there first is kind of top priority.
Have you spoken with the worker from Pennsylvania to get together her initial impressions of the situation in Pennsylvania?
I've spoken to her briefly over email, just like regarding the visits and everything, and there were no concerns brought to me at that time. So I don't foresee any concerns.
Have you discussed with the family, the department, or anyone else the option to allow the child to visit with her family? For example, we have obviously Thanksgiving coming up. Would that be an option for the child to visit with her family in Pennsylvania?
I think it could definitely be discussed and looked into. I have not looked into it yet, so I wouldn't have an actual solid answer for you at this time.
Would you be interested in seeing how such an extended visit would go in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I could definitely look into that.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Moore?
The court asked the questions I was concerned about, Your Honor.
Thanks. Mr. Amadeo, any questions?
Ms. Moore, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
How long have you been involved in this case?
I was the initial signed foster care worker, so I kind of stepped in. CPS still held the case, but I've been here since the beginning.
Okay, would it be fair to say outside the family and in this court, you have more knowledge than anybody else about this case?
I think that would be fair.
Okay, and to be very clear, you do feel it's in the best interest of this woman to go back to Pennsylvania with her family, correct?
Yes, I do.
And I said, well, I was always going to say child. I'm used to juvenile cases in this court, so I apologize for that. I was going to say this child, but she's an adult. With that said, can you just briefly explain, I know you kind of did this already, why you think Ellie would be better off in Pennsylvania than Michigan?
I think she would just have some more solid support systems behind her. I think it will be beneficial for her to kind of reconnect with her sister. I know that was something, a relationship that Ellie had told me that she would enjoy to kind of get into again. I think it would kind of be a weight off of her chest in a way to be able to actually leave this Lenawee County. I imagine there's a lot of reminders specifically in Adrian where our office is for her. So I can see how that could be harder. And just for her parents as well, it's a lot having to bounce, switch which parents here and hotels and everything like that. So I think it will be kind of a way for her to slow down to be able to start healing herself.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Mr. Brooks, any questions for our foster care caseworker, Macy Moore?
I do not.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, any other witnesses or comments in closing?
Just closing remarks, Your Honor.
Closing remarks as well, Judge.
Mr. Brooks?
I don't think I have any real standing here, so I have no comment.
Okay. Comments, Mr. Amadeo?
Thanks, Judge. I am going to ask that you allow her to move back to Pennsylvania. I know there was some hesitation earlier. I think the family's made progress in that regard. I think it's a financial strain for her to be here, and I also think there's some mental health issues that we better addressed in Pennsylvania with the support of her family. I like the idea she'll be back with her sister making a connection. I think Ms. Moore is the most objective person outside the lawyers in the room to make the case to you. I think she spoke volumes when she thinks Pennsylvania would be the move, so I'm going to ask you to do that.
Mr. McFarland, what do you?
All right, one of my concerns and the court's concerns is were there attempts made or are being made for a guardianship in Pennsylvania? We have evidence, which I've just received, I didn't realize that it was already scheduled, which I'm pleased to see. I know parents were calling me quite consistently early on, trying to find a place for Ellie, and I also attempted to reach out as a courtesy to them, unsuccessful to find some place locally other than the hotel where they've been diligently staying. It is concerning to me that we have a criminal investigation, and I think the father may have some instability in this case, and I don't want to see Ellie maybe unduly influenced or attempt to be contacted by him here locally. I see a safety concern there, Your Honor. Due to his, I consider he has some instability issues. I see we have support on the abuse and neglect case, which was the other concern that I have regarding parenting time, and if there's support on that end, and there is, Your Honor. So at this point, I would see no objection to moving, but keep this case open, because obviously we need to make sure that the guardianship is successful in Pennsylvania, and if that's the case, then we can come back here to discuss closure of the guardianship. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. All right. So first of all, I want to say that I know that I have been telling this family for a couple of months now that what I needed to see from them was to file and ask for authority to make sure that Ellie is safe, and that they can make decisions for her in Pennsylvania under the color of law to help prevent things like this from happening in the future. So I want to take a moment to recognize that and thank the family for taking those steps. All right. As a result of that, I am, and considering the support of the attorneys, the Department of Health and Human Services, the pending hearing for the appointment of guardianship, and the progress of the case on the abuse and neglect side, I'm going to find that it does serve the welfare of Ellie Guerin to grant a request to allow her to move back to Pennsylvania immediately. I'm glad to see that a lot of the services that she has are online, and so she'll be able to transition using those until and unless something's set up for you in Pennsylvania, to re-engage in some services and routines that were supportive of Ellie in Pennsylvania. And I'm looking forward to Ms. Moore exploring potentially the visit of Ellie's child to the family, both for Thanksgiving, for some of those weekend or every other week visitations for the family, as well as Christmas. The next review in the abuse and neglect matter is not scheduled until January 12th at 1:30 p.m. So what I'm going to do is set a review on this guardianship file in addition to what's already happening with the abuse and neglect case to determine whether or not the guardianship needs to remain in place. So for example, if Pennsylvania grants you guardianship between now and when we come back in January, then I can close our guardianship case here. Michigan doesn't allow for transfer of authority, but if you have the authority granted to you in Pennsylvania, then I can close this case. And we'll draft something to that effect so that you can have that for the hearing in November. That just simply documents that we can't transfer our authority, but we're looking for Pennsylvania to confirm your authority so that Ellie can remain in your care with adequate protections in Pennsylvania. So that hopefully that can be of some assistance in case any questions arise on that point when you're there on the 18th in Pennsylvania. So we'll put those pieces in place. We'll allow Ellie to return to Pennsylvania. Ms. Moore has her homework, and so I'm going to grant the petition in order. We'll draft that separate notice for status conference with the additional remarks that I've offered for the record today. And unless there's any questions, that's all.
Date of that,
January 12th at 1:30.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Not for me, Judge, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
That's all for this morning.
Thank you.
Stay in his room then?
I want you to stay put.
He's in the waiting room. We're gonna take the mom's review first. Call us whenever you're ready. This is a review of the progress that's been made by the mother in this case, Ms. Ellie Guerin. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Harrison Howitt, lawyer, guardian ad litem.
Nastasia Thomas, counsel for the department.
Macy Moore, foster care worker with Catholic Charities.
Michael Brooks, I'm the attorney for Mr. Cundiff. He's here, but we've taken him, put him in a waiting room.
Yes, for all our purposes, the reviews for each parent are held separately, but we appreciate you being here and we'll get to your client as soon as we can.
Good morning.
Any comments?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Anna.
sorry, Ms. Kirk, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ariel Berger here on behalf of Mother Ellie Guerin.
And the Garings?
Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Guerin. I'm Ellie's mother and legal guardian.
I'm Ellie again, mother of Chloe.
Okay. We can go to Mr. Howard for his report.
Yes, I was able to see the child at parenting time with her father on January 5th, 2026. I'd say this reporting period has been a bit of a struggle for the child. Around towards the end of November, around Thanksgiving, she began to experience what has been diagnosed as infantile spasms. They were very concerning to her placement, and placement sought medical attention immediately. And since then, she's kind of been in and out of the hospital. And seeing a bunch of doctors. Really, the goal was just to diagnose, but also to ensure that she's on the right medication. So, we're not doctors, but and I'm not 100% sure, the long-term effects that this may have on her. But placement, from what I've seen, has done a great job of just being with the child every step of the way and ensuring that she's getting the right medical attention. She's taking her to the hospital in the middle of the night. And with all this time and back and forth between doctor visits and hospital stays, I think it's important that, the developmental side of the child doesn't get lost. And that, we're following the recommendations and seeing if there's anything we can do, whether it's through early on or OT or PT, and just making sure we're staying on top of that. So I think that's something that our side of things could definitely control.
I'm gonna need you to speak up just a little.
Yeah.
I know you're by the microphone, but I'm still having trouble.
So I think that's something that our side can control as far as the PT and OT, and any other recommendations early on may have. Also, this reporting period, there was a MIC investigation that was closed with no concerns for wrongdoing. It ended up being more of a medical, I guess maybe an anomaly, but just another wrinkle to this potentially troublesome reporting period. When I saw the child behaviorally, she was a little bit fussy, but did appear to be gaining appropriate weight, which is impressive for being inside of the hospital and in and out of that different environment. And, she did have some very big cheeks, so definitely gaining weight and eating okay. So despite the medical issues, this was still good to see on her growth. But I do know there were some noted concerns about the developmental side of things. So. I think something that was asked to be explored this reporting period was what would it look like to do at least a few visits in Pennsylvania with the guardian and her mother. We kind of put this on the back burner. I would say I put this on the back burner as we really focused on getting Chloe the requisite medical attention, and it just wasn't sure what that transition would look like back and forth, and didn't seem safe to try that for now until we got more clarity on what her medical, process would be for the next few weeks or months. So I think that there's a lot going on with the child right now, and I do think she's in the best place to have those needs of taken care of and evaluated. She's got a great placement and medical staff in place that I wouldn't want to disrupt right now. And then, in the future, I think when the time is appropriate, we can be exploring what it may look like for her to go to Pennsylvania and see them. But for right now, I think the medical side of things is more pressing. But so I do think it's in her best interest to remain where she's at. She obviously did not disclose her wishes due to her age. Thank you.
Okay. Any other opening comments from our attorneys before we get started?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
No, thank you.
Testimony today, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. If Ms. Moore can be sworn in, please.
Stand. Okay, I just want to acknowledge for the record, I see we have Mr. Peter Winter here with us. And typically you come in from Mr. Amadeo's office, sort of also on behalf of the department. Is that, I've made that assumption here this afternoon. Is that accurate, Mr. Winter?
Your Honor, I'm not sure who I'm representing here. Mr. Amadeo asked me to step in. He said, I don't think you realized there was going to be testimony being taken. He's at a funeral in Flint. So if I recall correctly, I think he represented Ellie at one time. I'm not sure.
He still does, Your Honor, but that's only in the guardianship case.
Got it. Okay. All right. So hang tight, Mr. Winter, because we're in the review aspect of things.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, great. Okay. Testimony from your witness today, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Moore, you've provided a court report for Ms. Guerin today, and there are a few documents in there, but in addition to those that are in the packet, have you circulated any other documents as it relates to Ms. Guerin since you filed this?
No, I have not. No,
Okay.
I have not. Sorry.
That's okay. Are there any updates or modifications that you're aware of that need to be made to that packet?
I have just a couple updates to give today.
Okay, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Chloe did go for her neurology MRI follow-up this morning. I obviously have not had time to call the neurologist and get an update, but that was kind of to determine the next steps of treatment and the possible underlying conditions of why she is having these infantile spasms. And then she is in early on. I believe they put a pause on it due to the medical concerns, just having so many places to kind of run around to. And then she has been referred to PT and OT, and same kind of thing. We just have yet to schedule that with all of the other appointments that she was having. And then for Miss Guerin, she is seeing a psychiatrist, Amber Gazelle, through Maryball in Pennsylvania for medications and reviews, in addition to her individualized counseling. And then we do FaceTime visits as the child allows us to. If she's too fussy that day, we'll cut them short because our staff's the one kind of holding her for the FaceTime. And then in-person visits, same thing. Miss Guerin and her family came up on 12/26 and 12/27 for visits, and they're going well. No concerns being reported or anything like that. So those are my main updates.
And as relates to mom's case service plan, how would you describe her compliance with and benefit from that case service plan during this review period?
I would say it's good. She's participating in a lot of things, counseling, doing her medication reviews. She just got a job. She is also participating in the P parenting classes. And I've also mailed some of the Bablock parenting packets to her as well. And she's read those and done the work in the back of the packets as well. So I would say she's doing good compliance and doing the things that she needs to.
And this is maybe a little out of turn here, but are you aware of whether or not the guardianship for Miss Guerin was recognized and ordered in Pennsylvania as well?
Yes, I believe that it was. I just got the order sent to me, so I haven't looked at it physically yet, but I believe that it exists.
Okay. And during this review period, were efforts made to determine whether or not Miss Tanya Guerin and her husband would be an appropriate foster home or placement for the child?
Yes, they were. We got a interstate compact report back, which does do a denial based on the fact that Miss Guerin's living in the home with them, but in the report, it outlines that the home itself is appropriate.
I also noticed that in that summary email, the reporter indicated maybe some concern about whether Miss Tanya Guerin had been forthcoming with some information, and then the relationship between Miss Ellie Guerin and her mother. Have you been able to discuss those concerns with the family?
I discussed them briefly prior to the report coming back. Tanya Guerin had told me that she signed all the necessary releases for them to obtain her prior mental health history, but that was kind of the extent that I got.
Okay.
I have not talked to her since.
With there being an established guardianship in Pennsylvania now, what would be the risk of harm to the child if the court were to return the child to Miss Ellie Guerin today?
That's a hard question. I think I need some clarification. So would it be return home? Like, would the guardianship go over Chloe in a way? So Tanya's technically with Chloe. Does that make sense? Or did I make it more confusing?
Well, the question just is, with Ellie being in a guardianship and being in the home with Miss Tanya Guerin, what is the risk of harm to the child if the child were to be returned to Miss Ellie Guerin?
I can't really think of any risk of harm off the top of my head if that were to occur.
Okay. Do you know if Mr. Cundiff has filed for any custody of the child?
Not that I am aware of, no.
The report indicates that mom is supposed to start the parenting class. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but maybe it's Triple P or something like that this month. I'm sorry, did you indicate whether or not that has started?
I believe that it has. I haven't gotten any certificates, but it was reported to me that she began the classes, yes.
Okay. And is Miss Ellie Guerin participating with her guardians, Miss Tanya Guerin and Mr. Patrick Guerin, in any of the medical appointments for the child?
Yes and no. They have the neurology number, so they're able to call the neurologist to get any information or ask questions, stay in touch that way. But joining the visits have not been a thing, just because they're already pretty hectic, I would say.
Okay. Are there any other services that Miss Guerin needs to engage with in order to be, continue to be compliant with her case service plan, or is she doing everything she can?
I would say she's doing everything, just continued participation and compliance.
Is there anything else that you would like the court to know about from your knowledge of the case today?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Thank you. Let me just make sure I have everything I've reviewed. Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Moore and would ask the court to admit in the court report packet that was submitted for today's hearing.
Objections?
No, Your Honor.
I have no initial objection, Your Honor, but I just received the court report maybe 2 minutes before the hearing started, so I would just reserve any objections for the next hearing if that's possible.
Objections to that request?
No, Your Honor.
Not at all, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right. They're is received and the objections are reserved. Okay, questions for this witness then, Ms. Berger?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Moore, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
If there is no risk of harm to returning the child to mother, why are we not returning the child to mother?
A big part of it was her medical concerns, getting that kind of under control and having the doctors kind of give us a next step of where to go after that was my main concern.
Is mother on board with the child not being in her care at this time?
I'm not sure. Could you re-ask the question?
Is mom in agreement with her child staying in foster care?
I am not sure.
Okay, so it's strange that there would be no risk of harm and that the agency would still want to keep this child in a foster placement. Can you explain a little bit more why?
Just based on the medical concerns, we haven't had any overnights with them yet, due to the medical concerns.
Okay, I'm just gonna interrupt here because I think that Ms. Moore's initial remarks on this really do complicate things. So if the placement is not approved for ICPC, would the department even be able to reunify this child with the mom?
Under my understanding, we have something that states that the home is appropriate. So that's what we would be looking for, is the appropriateness of the home.
But the parental authority of Ellie Guerin, so you would be returning this child to the care, custody, and legal authority of Ellie Guerin.
Right.
Not the placement with the parents. So technically you'd be restoring the parental authority to Ellie Guerin. Is Ellie Guerin in any capacity able to parent this child safely?
That's my also concern, is that I don't know if Ellie will ever be capable to solely parent the child without the assistance of her guardian.
Right, and if the placement of her parents has been denied through the department, do you even have the legal authority to place this child in that house?
I would not, I'm not sure.
Okay. That's, I think, the question that Macy and I are both interested in answering.
And I believe the main reason for the denial is due to Ellie living in their home.
Right, so if you were to put in a request to your superiors to put this child into that home, would it be accepted or refused?
Right, I'm not sure.
Okay, all right, sorry, thank you for allowing the interruption, but I just wanted to make sure that those issues were included before you decided you were finished with your questions.
That's what I'm trying to discern, Your Honor. If this child can be reunified with mom and the home was appropriate, and the only reason the home was denied is because mom currently has a case open, it seems that both issues would be fixed if the child is reunified with mom. And if there's no risk of harm, I'm not sure why we're still keeping this child in care. I understand the medical concerns, but that's not a reason to keep a child in foster care.
Well, I can tell you that Ellie Guerin is still a risk of harm to the child herself. And if her authority is what we'd be relying on for her to take care, and responsibility would be who we were relying on to take care of her, that's my concern.
Sure, but the caseworker said that she doesn't have any, that mom is not a risk of harm.
Is that assuming that the grandparents would be doing all the caretaking?
Yes, that would be my assumption, yes.
Okay, so if that assumption were gone and we were just simply relying on Ellie Guerin to take care of this child,
I would say that there is a risk of harm due to the parental cognitive level of Miss Guerin at that point.
so I think that's the question.
It is.
I mean,
Yeah.
if she gets into a disagreement with her, if the mother disagrees with the grandmother on how to take care of this child, the mother would have the legal authority to make the decision.
True, but not the legal authority to move, right? Or to leave.
Great question. Or to give the child to whoever she wants to.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Your Honor, can I butt in for a second? We're talking about a guardianship. Is there a guardianship for Ellie where her parents or her mother is guardian or guardians for her?
Yes, that's accurate. And I do have that paperwork today. I received it today. I think it came through in the guardianship case. Did you get a copy?
I don't know if Mr. Amadeo did or did not. I don't have it. I was just curious because it seems to me from a legal standpoint, if she's under guardianship, I don't think she's got legal authority to make any decisions regarding the child without the guardian's approval.
Well, to make things more complicated, the guardianship is out of Pennsylvania. So the answer to that question is not really one that we can even answer without looking at looking at how the guardianship in Pennsylvania operates.
Your Honor, I can send him an email if he could provide that to us, so he has that.
All right, you know what, let's take a quick recess. I'm gonna talk with the attorneys about some of these legal issues to see if we can make some headway of this before we take up more time on the record with it. So thank you for your testimony, Ms. Moore. You can step down for a moment and we'll step into a sidebar. For the mom's portion of things specifically, we've had a very thorough exploration of the legal issues in this case pursuant to the sidebar. My take on the conclusion of that, we talked about all of the developments that came from Pennsylvania, recognizing that what we've received and has been circulated thoroughly now to everybody on this case and the guardianship case is simply that it would appear that the guardianship from Michigan the guardianship orders from Michigan have been recognized in Pennsylvania, but do not operate as a separate guardianship. So that raises a question as to if the Michigan court closes the jurisdiction of the guardianship case, if that will effectively close the guardianship authority in the Pennsylvania case, which is a distinct possibility according to some preliminary research done. But we're not really, we're not in Pennsylvania. So that's an issue that Ellie's gonna have to take up with her parents and deal with that, and we'll deal with the guardianship case in a minute. But it causes a problem in the abuse and neglect case because the question remains as to whether or not Ellie Guerin wants to work on reunification with her daughter and what that looks like. The interstate compact investigation that was done into the home of Ellie's parents revealed that Pennsylvania has a slightly different take on things than we do here in Michigan. In Michigan, if a parent, even a respondent parent who may have some issues, is residing with appropriate parents, then placement can be explored in that household with the grandparents. In Pennsylvania, they appear to have a different perspective there. It appears in Pennsylvania, if a respondent parent with challenges is residing with other people like their parents who may not have issues, it doesn't matter. And ICPC has still denied them. So there's the preliminary issue outlined in the one page that we received, which is it's the shortest investigation result I've ever seen. But there's also some other issues that were raised in this document about domestic violence and untreated mental health issues and the dynamics of the relationship between Tanya Guerin and her daughter. That's important to note because that indicates that it's not simply that Ellie with her own challenges is the issue, but there could be additional issues in the household beyond what the Michigan court has identified with regard to Ellie's limitations. That also, this letter has some implications in the guardianship case as well, but we'll take that up when it's time to talk about the guardianship file. The long and the short of it is reunification with Ellie and her daughter appears to have gotten more complicated rather than less in the last report period based on the ICPC investigation results, as well as the development of the Pennsylvania court as it relates to guardianship and how that appears to now hinge on the guardianship authority in Michigan, anyway. So the question as to reunification efforts with Ellie is one that we're going to be looking at trying to answer if it's feasible, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, right? If we can reunify this parent with this child. Now, the challenges presented by Mr. Cundiff, the father of the child, impact this review hearing simply because it's also permanency planning. But the particulars of his situation we'll reserve to explore with him during his review period. Other comments on the sidebar at this point, Ms. Mr. Winter, you were there for it, and I know you're in the guardianship case, but obviously the guardianship impacts the abuse and neglect, and the abuse and neglect impacts the guardianship. Would you like to make a record on anything that we talked about in the sidebar?
No, Your Honor, I think you did an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks, anything you'd like to make a record on as it relates to the sidebar?
Only if we all agree that there's really not a whole lot of moving forward we can do. We just fund of pending him getting through a morass of legal issues in the criminal courts of Michigan.
Yes, we'll highlight the details of that when it's his review. But yes,
No.
okay, very good. Mr. Howitt, comments on our side?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so let's look at Ms. Ellie Guerin's case with any other questions for any other witnesses today. Actually, we had Ms. Macy Moore was on the stand. Ms. Berger, did you have any more questions for her?
I do not, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Howard, did you have any questions for her?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Thomas, any redirect for her?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Any other witnesses today?
I have none, thank you.
Any witness testimony today? Ms. Berger?
Ellie, would you like to testify today?
No, I'm okay.
No witnesses, then, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Howard?
No witnesses.
Very well. Comments in closing as it relates to the permanency planning hearing as well as the review of Ellie Guerin's case services.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we would like to recognize that Ms. Guerin is at least engaged in services that support her case service plan. I think that there are a lot of legal issues that have to be resolved. I would anticipate a family team meeting or maybe even a professionals conference where we kind of brainstorm and try to figure out the best path forward, what that looks like for this kiddo, given her very young age, the time, the amount of time that she's been in care and how long it would take to achieve permanency, given the options before us. So at this time, Your Honor, we would just ask for status quo with mom continuing to engage in her case service plan, with Ms. Moore following up with those referrals, recommendations, and keeping track of things that mom's doing. And then obviously offering that parenting time as would be appropriate for the child's best interest and safety. With that, we just asked for a 90-day review. I think within that this review period, we should have more information about the concerns from the ICPC investigation. I would like to see a thorough report rather than just the summary. I also think that there needs to be some work done in understanding the difference between transferring the guardianship to Pennsylvania versus registering in the order and letters of authority in Pennsylvania. But again, you know, that's out of our jurisdiction. I just believe that we've all come to the accurate conclusion that what has occurred right now is not sufficient for our court to really let go of jurisdiction of this family at this time. Thank you.
Okay, any objection to the court taking into evidence the documents from Pennsylvania indicating the developments on the guardianship? Their file is number 2025-1525. I believe those pleadings have been circulated, but I would be inclined to receive them into evidence as they are certainly relevant. Any objections?
No.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
No objection.
All right, Ms. Berger, any closing comments today?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to, I guess, indicate or agree with the department in part that my client is making progress, that she is doing as much as she possibly can, given the distance between her living situation and here in Michigan. She's engaged in parenting, she's attending counseling, she's attending psychological appointments. So I would just ask for another review period to either give her more time to work on these things towards reunification, or for us to come up with a comprehensive plan for placement of her child and her guardianship. Thank you.
Okay. Comments, Mr. House?
Yes, I think it's important that the child is in a better spot medically today than she was a couple of months ago. So I think we're all very happy about that. I think from the reports and speaking or attending a team decision-making meeting, Ellie is doing well in Pennsylvania. She's willing to do what is available to her. She doesn't, turn things down. But as far as, long-term planning and getting some clarity there, I think the conversation with all parties about their intentions as far as involvement with the child would definitely be where I would like to start, and then kind of working through those intentions to match it up with what's best for the child and what options are available to the families would be a good order of operations. So that is something that I think our team will be looking to do over these next 90 days. Thank you.
Thank you. The court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's review and permanency planning hearing. This has been bifurcated. Each parent is entitled to an independent review of case services anyway. But the question of permanency is one that relates solely to the child. As I shared during our sidebar, I think that this report period has produced a lot of information that we were all hoping would give us some clarity moving forward as it relates to the Guerin family. And I think what we've gotten is more questions than answers, and more information that raises more questions as to what should be done to plan for where this child will be moving forward. As I indicated, the ICPC, the Interstate Compact investigation into the request for placement made by Tanya and Patrick Guerin has been denied. So that effectively, as of today, closes off the court's ability to place this child with her grandparents, which is also where her mother is living. But the goal in the case currently, as it relates to the child and the mother, is reunification. So the paramount question is whether or not Ellie Guerin has made sufficient progress in her case services to document that the risk of harm has been remedied and it's safe to send the child home. All of the issues that were raised at removal as it relates to Ellie's limitations are still in place. If anything, we have more documentation about that as a result of the work that was done in the guardianship case. Ellie's parents have advocated fiercely for guardianship of her. They secured guardianship of her in file 25-53277DD based on the assessment completed by Michelle Liska, which is also part of the documents that were received into evidence today from the Court of Common Pleas of Northampton County, Pennsylvania, the Orphans Court Division, as they call it there, in file 25-1525. But we were aware of a lot of Ellie's limitations before that, and those contributed to the removal, in addition to many of the other issues associated with her relationship with Mr. Cundiff. So those limitations and challenges, and now compounded by the distance and the child's health issues that have prevented additional bonding opportunities, increase the court's perspective on the goal of permanency. Secondarily, the reservations that were identified in the ICPC letter dated December 26, 2025 from the County of Northampton Children, Youth, and Families Division raised some issues on top of the challenges that Ellie seems to have come to the table with, as far as that were identified with Michelle Liska. And that does include, and I'm just going to quote right from the letter, the state of Michigan should further assess the relationship between Tanya Guerin and her daughter, Ellie Guerin, as there is documentation provided to this agency that indicated prior domestic violence and mental health concerns for both individuals. In addition, Tanya Guerin may not have been fully transparent in her mental health diagnoses and or treatment due to her resistance in providing documentation to this agency, as well as medical records that appear to have information omitted. So now we have the mom residing in Pennsylvania with her mom, and these additional issues that have been raised. The question that I would like to have, and I'm afraid to ask more questions in this case, to be perfectly honest with you, but I think the next logical question for me to answer in the next report period, Ms. Moore, is whether or not Ellie Guerin can effectively move towards reunification at this point, given her natural born limitations, if you will. The limitations that were identified outside of the reservations that are now raised as it relates to the household that she lives in. Ellie was ordered out of the Cundiff household into the household of her parents without any background knowledge of the risks that were identified by the Pennsylvania investigation. That will be taken up in the guardianship, but regardless of where Ellie is at, can she effectively reach a level of parenting skill that would allow her to assume full parenting responsibility for this child is a question that I need answered. So if that means going back to Ms. Liska with that question, or finding another professional, or simply a deeper dive into the analysis that of the facts and circumstances that we have here, is the task of the department moving forward. Because if she can never achieve reunification because she just simply can't get to that level of parenting skill, then the goal is clearly adoption as it relates to her efforts and the child. So that being said, what I'm going to do today, and I'll go further into analysis with Mr. Cundiff, of course, is create a dual goal. Understanding the developments of this report period, taking into account the fact that this child does appear to have her own developing special needs and can't travel, and some other complications that are further detailed in the court report, but also the fact that the child's been removed since June 12, 2025. We're clearly past 6 months. This is a very young child with significant needs who's developing a significant bond with her placement. I think it's appropriate to recognize at this juncture, this is our second review period, that reunification now has the competing goal of adoption on the same footing. So I'm going to set a dual goal for this child moving forward. Contingent on what further developments may persuade the court, given that Mr. Cundiff's review still, we have to get to that. In the meantime, as it relates to Ellie Guerin, the court does find that her child is in the safest and least restrictive placement. She's not able to be returned to Ellie Guerin at this time. Currently resides in Pennsylvania with all of the limitations that have been established on the record up to this point, as well as the additional concerns that the court articulated on record today. Certainly, there have definitely been efforts towards reunification by Ms. Moore. Deep dive into both how Pennsylvania and Michigan intersect. Thank you to all of our attorneys and advocates and service providers who are putting so much time and energy into this case and this family in order to figure out what's best for this child. So that will conclude for Ms. Ellie Guerin, her review portion today. And I would offer to everyone to return to talk about the case again. Let's see, in April. Well, basically, I have the morning of April 6th. We can set it for 9 a.m.
Works for me.
All right.
Works for me.
Hearing no objections, we'll set our next review for both parents, 9 and 10, on April 6th, Monday, April 6th at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock respectively, starting with Ellie Guerin.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
Why are these hearings bifurcated?
Because of the, the indications of domestic violence, which have now been supported also by the criminal charges. Ellie Guerin's visible reaction to the crossing of her path with Christopher Cundiff at the last hearing further supports that. It's in consideration for Ellie and her mental health, and so that she would be able to comfortably participate as she wanted to, considering how disturbing it has been for her to have your client in the same hearing.
Thank you.
But let's go into your client's hearing. Okay, all right, so the Garens are welcome to log off or turn your camera off if you wish to review the second half of our proceedings today. As I said, it is in consideration for Ellie that we've bifurcated these and in consideration of the domestic violence between the two, the current criminal charges. So if you want to log off. I would recommend that you at least turn your camera off. We're going to head into the review portion as it relates to Christopher Cundiff. All right, just for the record, they have terminated their video feed. And I have welcomed Jail Zoom 1 back in. Is it possible for us to have Christopher Cundiff? I know you've been waiting very patiently, and we appreciate your time. We still have Christopher Cundiff from the jail. We may have to take a brief recess to call over to make sure that he their camera is off and their microphone is off. If available to us now from the jail for purposes of the review on services and permanency planning analysis, we have the names of our participants.
Carson Howard, lawyer, guardian ad litem.
Ms. Saja Thomas, counsel for the department.
Macy Moore, foster care worker with Catholic Charities.
Michael Brooks, I'm the attorney for Mr. Christopher Cundiff, father of the child. Chris?
I'm Christopher Cundiff, father of the child.
Very well. All right. Okay. Mr. Howitt, any comments from your report for the benefit of Mr. Cundiff?
Yes, I would say I was able to observe a parenting time with Mr. Cundiff and the child. The child was pretty fussy during the visit. She started crying, and Mr. Cundiff took all appropriate steps to soothe her. And it did take some time, but he was able to stay calm the whole time and take care of it. And she stopped crying, and eventually I think that she just started eating. But so that was good to see. And I've observed appropriate relationship and bond with Mr. Cundiff and the child since my first visit with them. And I've seen them every few months together. So what I would say also about the medical concerns that the child is facing right now, Mr. Cundiff did not seem to have a ton of information on it. I don't know how involved he's been or what information he's been provided, but I think he said that she had been sick, which in a way is true, but he did not share a ton of information or have a ton of interest in what was going on with that. And so I guess I would like a clarification from him today on what his understanding of the condition is and what information has been available to him. But and then I do believe that the child is in a placement that fits her best interests. She's been well taken care of through this medical treatment concerns over the last couple months, and obviously she did not share her wishes due to her age. Thank you.
Okay, any other opening comments?
No, Your Honor.
No.
Testimony today, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd ask Ms. Moore to provide her report at this time.
Very good. Ms. Moore, come on up to this meeting. All right, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you. Ms. Moore, you provided a court report today for Mr. Cundiff and his hearing. In addition to these documents, have you circulated or provided the parties with any additional exhibits for today's hearing?
I have not, but I do have copies of the psychological report that I am prepared to provide copies of.
Okay. At this time, have you provided that to Mr. Brooks or Mr. Howitt?
I gave Mr. Howitt a copy, but not to Mr. Brooks.
Okay. Are you prepared to summarize the contents of the psychological evaluation for the benefit of Mr. Brooks?
I could briefly summarize it, yes.
Okay. Let's hold off on that. At this time, though, can you just highlight Dad's compliance with and benefit from his case service plan during this review period?
Yes. Currently, Mr. Cundiff is incarcerated. He has been incarcerated since January 6th. Prior to being incarcerated, he reported that he was going to engage in domestic violence classes or the program with John Bailey. He had failed to do so prior to getting incarcerated, so he has yet to do so as well. He does do well in his parenting times. He attends the parenting times, brings diapers, wipes, things of that nature. He was able to start the foster care supportive visitation program prior to being incarcerated. However, since his incarceration now, he has missed one visit. If he misses the next 2 foster care supportive visitation visits, he will be booted from the program. But he is able to be re-referred. So if he is able to if he does end up getting kicked out of the program, I am able to re-refer him after his incarceration.
Do you, what is your understanding as to why Mr. Cundiff is incarcerated?
A few domestic violence charges, a tattooing without licensure charge, and something about tampering with like electronics.
Were any of these new incidents, or were they all outstanding and he was just picked up on a outstanding warrant?
All of them were new, I believe, new charges.
Okay. And then as it relates to your report, though, are there any updates other than the ones you've kind of provided right now that need to be made?
Just the only other thing that I would outline is that he has been provided with the neurology doctor's name and contact information. So I am not sure if he has followed up on that in any way, but that has been provided to him. So he could ask the questions.
Okay. And then as it relates to the child's medical needs and of doctor's appointments, are you informing Mr. Cundiff of those appointments in advance so he has awareness of what's happening?
Yes, as soon as I kind of hear about the appointment or if she goes to the hospital, so to say, I inform all parents and then the LJAL. So I start with dad, call mom, and then I call Mr. Howitt.
What would be the risk of harm other than dad's current incarceration? What would be the risk of harm to the child if the court were to consider returning the child to Mr. Cundiff today?
If the child were to be returned to Mr. Cundiff today, it would be at substantial risk of homelessness, money mismanagement, potential alcohol use, potential criminality, neglect, potential not following up on her medical care, all the ones off the top of my head.
As it relates to homelessness, it's my understanding, I believe from the court report, that generally Mr. Cundiff lives with his family. Do you have any updates as to that arrangement or as to why that would not be appropriate for the child to live there?
Yes, in his criminal side of things, there is a no contact order with Mary Cundiff, who is his mother, who resides at his address that would be within the court report. So he's not allowed to return to that address due to his mother residing there.
During this review period, though, it looks like Mr. Cundiff was able to secure employment, at least part-time.
He reported that he was employed at Little Caesars. I never received any employment verification. And then when I asked him for the verification, he had reported that he quit his job because he was potentially going to be incarcerated.
Okay. And part of this report also indicates that the DNA testing was completed on Mr. Cundiff and the child, and he is in fact the biological father. Were those results shared with him prior, when you received them?
Yes, they were.
Was there anything from the psychological evaluation that would help inform the case service plan moving forward?
I don't believe so. In short, it says that he needs to show long-term consistency, and it be very long-term.
Okay.
Before reunification were to occur.
Do you believe that reunification is still appropriate for Mr. Cundiff? That goal is still appropriate for the child as relates to Mr. Cundiff at this time?
Based on his recent criminality and recent charges, I would say no. I would say no.
Is there anything else you'd like the court to know from your knowledge of the case?
Nope, I believe we hit it all.
Okay. Your Honor, as relates to the psychological evaluation, I just received that right before court. I would ask the court to accept it at this time, provided that Mr. Brooks is given a copy of that. I would just ask the court to hold that open for any objections at the next hearing for myself, Mr. Howitt, and Mr. Brooks.
Subject to the preconditions that Ms. Thomas has put on it, I have no objection.
No objection.
Very well, I'll accept the reports. I'll need an extra copy. How many do you have there?
I have 3, 2 for you and 1 for Brooks.
Okay.
Carson already has one.
Deputy Answer, do you mind, or Deputy Cleaner, sorry, do you mind passing those around? Thank you. So I've received mine, Mr. Brooks has his, and I will leave it open for cross-examination and objections at the next review as requested. Questions for this witness, Mr. Brooks?
When he was not in jail up to about a week ago, I guess, was he cooperative trying to work on the case service plan?
He was. I would say yes. I've reminded him multiple times, however, that the domestic violence was kind of my #1 thing that I wanted him to get going on, and he failed to do so.
Well, did he fail to do it, or as he said, he was going to jail, so he didn't see any point in starting?
Failed to do so.
Is that something that he was gonna have to pay for?
Yes.
Which would, I assume, imply he'd need an income, right?
Yes.
Now, with respect to his child's physical condition, illnesses, and so forth, that has been by and large conducted, taking care of those issues outside of his control. Is that right?
Yes.
And is it also true that the party or parties who have controlled that situation are not very well disposed towards Mr. Cundiff?
I would disagree.
You would?
Yes. The placement's babysitter is Mr. Cundiff's biological aunt. So I would disagree.
Okay. We are all aware, I believe, of that my client's in jail at the moment, right?
Yes.
And, well, I have no further questions.
That's right.
Yes, when you would call Mr. Cundiff to inform him about the child's medical updates or appointments, how would those conversations go?
It would I would call, and typically, like over the Thanksgiving break, I was on my phone nonstop during that break, and I made multiple calls to Mr. Cundiff's mother, whose phone he uses. So I would call that phone and request to speak to Chris. And if they did not answer and I could not speak to Chris, I would just give the verbal update in a voicemail, and I would never receive a call back if I left a voicemail. But when I spoke to him directly, I would just kind of lay out, hey, this is what we're looking at. This is what the doctor told me. I'll keep you posted. She's in the hospital right now. I'll let you know. Do you have any questions for me? Typically, the response would be, no, I don't have any questions. And I would say, okay, if you think of anything, let me know. And then I additionally provided him with the neurologist's office's direct line, so he could call and get updates directly if he wanted to.
Before the court report was distributed, was there any medical records that he was provided with?
I don't believe so, because the neurology after visit summary in the court report is the first one I have received back. I am waiting for assistance from DHS in obtaining the medical documents, just because they give me a really hard time. So I had requested our health liaison assist with obtaining the documents.
Do either of the parents have access to the medical portal?
I believe potentially the Garens do, but I have no control over the portal, unfortunately.
This placement?
Placement's not allowed to access it.
Nothing further.
Is there a reason they're not allowed to access it?
I don't understand. I think it's like hospital policy type deal. I don't understand the
Your Honor,
portal.
we have a case with another judge where placement has to be ordered to have access to the medical portal. So I think we could request that, see if that works.
I was nasty. All right, any redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Brooks, any follow-up questions?
No.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Any other testimony today, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Testimony today, Mr. Brooks?
I'd like to call briefly Mr. Cundiff.
All right, then briefly here, if you could swear in Mr. Christopher Cundiff, please.
Mr. Cundiff, you are obviously incarcerated at the moment, correct?
Yes.
Could you tell the court what charges you're facing?
Okay, they told me I was picked up on 10 warrants. The first one would have been an assault with intent to do great bodily harm. Telecommunications is what they label or abbreviated it as. I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Interference with a telephone communication device, sound familiar?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then 7 domestic violences and 1 operating a tattoo without a license.
As we sit here this afternoon, you have not, other than being arraigned, no formal legal proceedings have begun, have they?
No, sir.
And you probably don't have any idea at this point when they will begin, do you?
I'm not 100% sure. I do believe I have a probable cause conference on the 21st with Judge Shadler.
All right.
I'm not exactly sure what that would be, though.
And that would probably cover your felony charge.
Okay.
You don't, right?
Yes.
Okay. And as for the remaining misdemeanor charges, you have received no word.
I don't believe so. I had 2 dates scheduled, then I got a paperback with only 1 on it at the end of the day.
So for the near-term future, next 2-3 weeks, month, you're probably going to stay right where you're at, right?
I wasn't expecting that, but you would know better than me. I was honestly thinking it would be a PR the next court date, based off of what my attorney said.
You're hoping you get a personal recognizance sponsor?
Yes, that's what I was under the impression is a possibility. GPS tether PR because of what my attorney relayed to me last time I spoke to her.
She would know better than I. All right. Do you agree right now the best interests of that child are to remain where she is?
No.
Where do you think she should be?
I think she should be at my home with her grandparents. my family.
Is this the lady who's got apparently a PPO against you?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like the court to know?
I would like to clear up a few things about the job in the John Bailey. Me and Macy and John were in a three-way email. She's well aware that I was set to start domestic violence counseling last Wednesday when I received the funds to PayPal. That was the last message I said, was I will receive the funds Wednesday and I'll talk to you then, John. She said, they all said, okay, great. And then basically she just made it sound like I never attempted to do anything when we all had plans to start it last Wednesday, but then I was arrested a short few days later. And on the job thing, she said she couldn't verify it. I never did turn in pay stubs. I do still have them. And also I did show up to almost every visit in my whole uniform, ready to go straight from the visit to my workplace.
Anything else you'd like the court to know?
And I don't think the homelessness would be an issue because that's probably going to be where I stay for several more years. And
where?
At my home, my parents' home. That's been my plan.
All right.
Plan is to stay there for years. So I don't know, homelessness wouldn't really be an issue to her, even if I did get in legal trouble, because she would be able to stay there in that sense.
Have your extended family outlined some of the medical issues that your child has?
Extended, what do you mean by that?
Well, if not your mother, the family of the mother, have they told you anything?
No.
Is there anything else that you want me to cover with you?
I would just say the only reason I wouldn't question it too much, or when she'd leave updates in the voicemail, she would specifically say if I had any questions to call her back. So that would be the reason I didn't, because I don't have any questions for the social workers in that sense. Anything I want to learn about, I'm going to take a Google and learn on my own.
But you did hear the messages that she left.
Yes, I heard every message, and I did acknowledge that I should only call back if I had any questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not have any questions, so therefore I did not call back intentionally.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Questions, Ms. Thomas?
I have none. Thank you.
Mr. Howe?
Yes. Mr. Cundiff, do you think you were provided with appropriate opportunities to stay involved in your child's medical appointments over the last couple months?
As in attending them, no. Macy did mention that once, but then for some reason she just never brought it up again when we were at the Catholic Charities building. She said maybe we can start going to these visits, but then she mentioned how they were in Toledo, but since I'd had my GPS removed, and then no, other than that, I haven't heard anything about like medical appointments or visits.
What do you know about her medical condition?
I believe it was an epileptic or epilepsy.
Have you spoken with any nurses or doctors that have treated her?
No, not specifically that have treated her. I just do all my own research on the internet after I've been told what she had been diagnosed with.
Would the PPO your mother has against you get in the way of you living there?
Technically right now it would, but she doesn't put it against me. It was brought on by somebody else's allegations. So I do believe that will be dropped. She had nothing to do with those claims.
Nothing further.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
Any other witnesses?
No.
Mr. Howitt?
No, Your Honor.
Any comments? Oh, Ms. Shirley, I think you are the one who has the child in your care at this time, is that right? We can't hear you. You're not muted, so it must be something with the audio on your end. Or the microphone, rather.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, definitely. Hang on.
Okay, I'm sorry, I had my speakers plugged in. So
I just want
Hang on one second, hang on, because Deputy Fleener is gonna swear you in, and then you're gonna have to give us your full name, and then we'll get started.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead and raise your right hand, ma'am. You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay, just keep in mind, we are on YouTube, so if you can avoid using the child's first name, that would be great, but I look forward to any comments you might have for purposes of today's review.
Yes, Your Honor. So I basically just want to give kind of an idea of what a typical day in my life looks like with the child. And this goes for whoever she may be placed with, mom, dad, grandparents, whoever. Whoever she gets placed with, I hope they're prepared that they need a full-time person with them, because my support person, who happens to be Mr. Cundiff's aunt, is a godsend to me because she doesn't work. So she's here full-time and moved in with me to assist me so that I could keep my job. If I didn't have her, I would not be able to work with her medical conditions. So whoever she gets placed with, I hope they understand that somebody needs to be with her full time. They need to know what symptoms to look for. This was not something that was easily detected. Jen detected, oops, I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to say her name. My support person is the one who detected it. I was at work. She called me. I left work. We took her to the hospital. And luckily, it got caught very quickly, because the damage that it could cause her in long term, it's unspeakable. And the medication has worked wonders. She was at a point when the spasms first started where she was not even being responsive. And she now is laughing and giggling and the happy baby that she was when I first got her. The first time she smiled and laughed, we cried because we were so happy to see that. I just want somebody to understand that I wake up on a Monday morning at 6:30 in the morning. My caregiver and I both. We have appointments, and now we got slapped with OT and PT. So that's another thing that has to be fit into the schedule. We get up, we have early on coming. We have early education coming. Then we have to take her to visitations. And then I have to come home and get ready for work. And then my support person's with her. Then I get off work and we have to do it all over again. And when she doesn't want to go to sleep, we don't get to go to sleep. So it's really important for somebody to understand, whether the Garens take her or whether someone else takes her, that they may need to come to the realization that somebody may not be able to work. Somebody may need to be with her full time. Her condition is not going to go away. The medication they put her on, yes, it helped her, but the neurologist made it very clear that this is not going to take it away. It's going to help it, but that doesn't mean it's going to stop it. And every time she has one of these spasms, it causes more developmental damage. She's 7 months old. She's just now trying to sit up on her own. She's just now trying to hold her own bottle. So yes, there has been some delays in her development, but she's getting there. Her cheeks are huge right now. She has Cushing's, and it's from the medication. The doctor informed me that that might happen. So she put on a lot of weight gain from that. So I'll give you a little bit of idea of what infantile spasms are. They are a form of epilepsy. Chris is right about that. It is a form of epilepsy. It's a rare form of epilepsy. 1 in so many thousand of children get this. She'll have an episode that may last 9 or 10 minutes. And during that 9 or 10 minutes, she'll have about 26 spasms. She will stiffen. Her arms will go up. Her body will stiffen. Her mouth will twitch. Her eyes will twitch. And if you're not watching her to see this, you don't know what's happening. And it happens. And at first she just gets shocked by it, and then she'll cry. Luckily, since the medication, she has not had any. But there is a chance that children with this can go on to have other types of seizures later in life. So it is important, whoever she gets placed with is prepared for that long-term health issues that are going to come with that. And they're prepared to take trips to Toledo because there is no children's hospital in Adrian or nearby. So it's either Mott's or Toledo. Those are your picks. So whoever takes her has to be prepared to be driving, because trust and believe, I drive to Toledo more than I can even count on one hand, not to mention I work in Toledo. Luckily, I work at the hospital that she's at. So luckily, when she was in the hospital, I was still able to work because I was right downstairs from her and I could go on my breaks. My boss was understanding about that. But it is a lot. It is a lot of back and forth driving. I drive. I feel like I live in my car anymore. I'm constantly going to appointments. She has to go get an EEG at 8 o'clock in the morning. I live in Adrian. That means I got to get up at 5:30 to get myself ready, get her bag packed. Me and my support person got to load her up in the car, take her for an EEG. Then directly after, she has an appointment with the neurologist. Then I got to come home and get ready for work and go to work. It's a lot. And somebody needs to be prepared for that. They need to have reliable transportation to take her back and forth to all of this stuff. It is a lot for somebody to handle. And I'm not saying that somebody can't do it, but I'm just trying to give them an idea of what it's like and to be prepared for that. And that's the only thing I can say. My daughter-in-law happens to be Mr. Cundiff's sister. So, I mean, I try to inform the family as much as possible. As Miss Moore said, my caregiver is Mr. Cundiff's aunt. So, you know, we try to keep everybody informed as possible. I would never withhold anything. I have no problem. If Mr. Cundiff wants to come to appointments with us, I have no problem with that at all. If it's allowed, because from my understanding, there were no unsupervised visits without their permission. So I mean, I would have no problem with that. And that's really all I had to say.
I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Do any of our attorneys have any questions for Ms. Shirley?
I do. I have one. Ms. Teague, I just want to make sure we're understanding correctly. Was your intention simply to inform the record of the reality of your situation and how caregiving is? Or should we be taking away that maybe you are reconsidering placement right now?
Oh, absolutely never. I've grown very attached to the child. I almost said her name. Sorry. I've grown attached to her, and I would never turn my back on her, especially now, like with all the health problems she has. She's most familiar with myself and my caregiver, and we're the two most familiar faces to her. I would never turn my back on her. No, I'm just trying to inform everyone of what the long term of this is. And
absolutely, thank you for that.
You know, like they need to have everything together before they consider placing her. I'm not saying she shouldn't be placed with anybody and that she might not be in a better place with somebody. What I'm saying is I just want them to be prepared for what's going to come along with that. And they need to have all of these things in order because it is a lot.
Okay. Thank you for that information and the continued support for this family. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Brooks, any questions?
Ma'am, are you willing to take on that responsibility?
The responsibility of
taking care of this child on a long-term basis?
I've been doing it for months. When she was in the hospital, my support person and I both slept in that hospital every single night with her. I never left her side, my caregiver nor myself. We stayed the night with her. I got ready in her room for work, went down to work, got off work, went back to her room and stayed the night with her. My support person nor myself would never turn our back on her ever. And I mean,
I'm
not saying that what I'm saying is I've never been approached with anything about adoption or anything like that. I'm not saying I'm the best person ever to have her. I'm just saying that whoever she does end up with, I just want them to be prepared for what a day is with her.
Well, until right now, I guess I didn't know it either. But thank you for your answer and your help.
You're welcome.
Mr. Howe?
Is there anything that the agency or department can provide to assist with the child or yourselves in transportation or hotels or anything like that?
No, Miss Moore has offered extended offers. Like last night, I did get a hotel room because her MRI was at 7 o'clock this morning, and I didn't want to have to, and she couldn't eat after a certain time. So the thought of driving from Adrian to Toledo with a screaming baby that's starving wasn't something I really wanted to be on the highway doing. And so I did get a room last night, and stayed there, and we got up at about 5 o'clock this morning, so I'm extremely exhausted. Because her last feeding was allowed to be at 5 for clear liquids, and she just wasn't happy with the Pedialyte. And so, but that's all she could have. So I wanted to at least get her that last bit before she went in. And then once we got there, we got delayed a little bit because of the guardianship issue, the legalities of the MRI. And then once we got it done, everything went smoothly. She came out fine. She's been sleeping a lot. They said that would happen because she had to be sedated for that MRI because they couldn't have her moving around. But everything went smoothly. She came out good. She's been sleeping. She's with my support person right now so that I could attend the hearing. But she's doing great. She's laughing and smiling, and she's doing good.
Nothing further.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, counselors. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from or any closing comments?
No more witnesses.
No one further, Your Honor.
I have nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, last opportunity for any comments?
Well, can I make a brief one?
Sure.
I didn't know how lucky we were to have that lady right there taking care of this little girl. I knew the child had problems. I didn't know the extent of the care required until about 5 minutes ago. Thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome. But my support person, she's owed a lot of credit too. She's with her while I'm at work, so she spends a lot of time with her. So like I said, she's a godsend to me. I couldn't have done this without her.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, well, the court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's permanency planning hearing as well as review. Mr. Cundiff's current circumstances have been well outlined by the court report, the testimony of Ms. Moore, and confirmation through his own testimony that he's unable to take placement due to his incarceration, current criminal charges, prohibition against returning to the home that he was living in, and all of the other circumstances that continue to be persistent and that were identified at the adjudication, frankly. Again, this child has been removed since June 12th, 2025. I know that the request for placement with his family has been investigated, but we'll ask Ms. Moore to just refresh the record for us next time on that request. But I believe we already have an investigation into that placement request with his mom and his family. Her current placement is certainly the safest and least restrictive, and that is, can't even describe the level of care that she's being provided at right now, which we heard extensively about. There's really nothing that allows the court and all of us to really understand what it's like, with the exception of opportunities to hear from people like Shirley. So I echo Mr. Brooks's comments. We're very grateful to you and to your support partner. So please pass along our thanks as well for all of the support that you provide for this child. The child will certainly remain in that placement pending our next review hearing. I am going to change the goal to a dual goal of adoption and reunification. We would need to see significant progress in all areas from Mr. Cundiff in a short period of time, frankly, in order to truly entertain more efforts that the court can justify towards allowing him to work towards reunification. This child has increasingly heightened needs around parenting, as well as health, developmental challenges, and all of the things that Ms. Shirley articulated so well for us on the record, and also we're continuing the court report and the testimony of Ms. Moore. She's been under the care of this parent as well since June 12th, 2025. And at best, we can look for an update as far as what's happening with his criminal charges at the next report period. But certainly not a lot of progress in other areas has been made up to this point, unfortunately. So with that in mind, and the young age of the child and her heightened needs, I am changing the goal to reunification and adoption to see where both of these parents will be in another 3 months. And at that point, we'll be looking at removal for a period of 9 months. And that is a significant period of time for a child that young and with this many challenges. So we'll come back together on April 6th at 10 a.m. for a review of Mr. Cundiff's progress or status. We'll also look at the goal at that time to determine whether or not the dual goal of reunification remains appropriate or if simply adoption should be the best goal for this child moving forward. Unless there's any questions, the record is, I think, very complete, and the court report or the court order will certainly contain the rest of the findings necessary to support the court's decision today. Unless there's any questions, that's it for today. We'll see you April 6th at 10 a.m. for Mr. Cundiff's case and at 9 a.m. for Ms. Ellie Guerin's case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We are on record for a review of this guardianship. We were awaiting developments from the court in Pennsylvania. I've received a document that's been circulated to the attorneys today and will be part of the court's file moving forward. In Pennsylvania, case number 25-1525, it is a notice of entry of court order entered in the Court of Common Pleas of Northampton County, Pennsylvania, Orphans Court Division, which indicates the order recognizes on December 1st the order of the probate court appointing Tanya Guerin as plenary guardian of the person in estate of Ellie Guerin and appointing Patrick Guerin as standby is registered in the Court of Common Pleas of Northampton County Orphans Court Division. It indicates further the registered order shall have the same full force and effect as a Pennsylvania guardianship order, and a copy is attached. I would note also there's attached a copy of the psychological evaluation performed by Michelle Liska in this case. It was used to establish the guardianship in Michigan. The letters of authority have been attached. And the order finally indicates the guardian may exercise in Pennsylvania all powers authorized by the Michigan order, subject to Pennsylvania law. We have the names of our participants.
Beginning in the courtroom, Michael McFarland, attorney guardian-ad-litem.
Macy Moore, foster care worker with Catholic Charities.
Yes, and you're here because of your involvement with Ellie's child in case 25-061NA.
Yes.
Thank you.
Peter Winter, Your Honor. I thought Mr. Amadeo was on, but I'm substituting for him on behalf of Ms. Guerin, I believe.
Thank you. And the Guerins, if you can introduce yourselves, please.
Ellie Guerin. Where's Mom? And Tanya Guerin, mother and guardian of Ellie Guerin.
Thank you.
I am prepared to give a verbal GAO report when the court wishes.
Proceed it will.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have received, as the court said, an order of the court from Pennsylvania. It does not appear to be a guardianship order, but it's basically acknowledging that what exists here in Lenawee, that the state of Pennsylvania will give recognition to, and that Pennsylvania will only authorize anything subject to the Michigan court order. I also would ask the court to take judicial notice of a letter we received from the County of Northampton Children's, Youth, and Family Services Division, or Families Division. They were asked to do an interstate study, and they did not approve Ellie being with Tanya and Patrick Guerin. Apparently, their standards are different than ours, and because they still would reside in a home with Ellie, that was not appropriate under their guidelines and standards, but not necessarily Michigan's. But what is more important to me is a statement that they said the state of Michigan should further assess the relationship between Tanya Guerin and her daughter, Ellie Guerin. Is there documentation provided to this agency that indicated prior domestic violence and mental health concerns for both individuals? And went on to say that Tanya Guerin may not have been fully transparent in her health diagnosis, and there is perhaps some resistance to providing documentation to that, as well as some medical records that appear to be omitted. So, and I just received this today, Your Honor, so I'm asking for an adjournment so I can question everybody involved regarding what the findings were from the state of Pennsylvania to see if that's an issue here or not. So that leaves questions unanswered to me. So.
Mr. Winter, you have a copy of that letter as well. Mr. McFarland, are you moving to have that, or would you like to have that as part of our guardianship?
I would. I'd ask the court to take judicial notice of that, Your Honor, and have that as an exhibit along with the order of the court, which I think the court already has.
Thank you. Any objections, Mr. Winter?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. I will receive that letter also then. It was entered in case 25-061NA for those proceedings. So we'll make sure a copy of that also makes it into the guardianship file. Your response to the request to adjourn, Mr. Winter?
No, I have no objection to it. I would just make the court aware that I've done a little research on Pennsylvania law, and I think that this notice of entry and the way the order is worded, it basically is a recognition and transfer of the Michigan guardianship. I know we're going to have a formal, more formal opinion than that, but in just a brief look at the law, that's what it looks like.
Thank you for that. I can't say I entirely agree with that assessment. Simply based on the language of the order that I reviewed today, it does appear, frankly, that the language in the order from Pennsylvania is contingent on the Michigan order. So I have concern that terminating the jurisdiction of the court in Michigan would terminate the guardianship authority in Pennsylvania. But I'm interested in allowing you to bring me anything further that you may find on that, as well as to allow Mr. McFarland to conduct his investigation as to whether or not the guardianship remains appropriate, the suitability of the guardian remains appropriate. The evaluation conducted by Ms. Liska did not explore any of that. These are new issues that were raised as a result of the ancillary investigation by the equivalent Department of Health and Human Services in Pennsylvania through a placement request for a child to be placed in that home that was denied. And I do think Mr. McFarland is right that may reflect on the suitability of the guardians to continue serving in the Michigan case. And if the Michigan case is what the Pennsylvania case is built on, then I think we do have a responsibility to investigate those issues. I agree with Mr. McFarland. So I'm going to set this out as requested, simply to be heard along with the other hearings in the abuse and neglect case that have already been scheduled, since there's such an overlap in these cases, for April 6th at 9 a.m. Unless there's any questions, that's all for today.
Could I ask Ms. Guerin to call my office to schedule a telephone conference?
Yes. Would you like to speak with Ellie?
Yeah, I'll talk to both of you individually, then together.
Sure.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you have your husband available also, that'd be helpful.
Yes, he's here as well.
Okay, thanks. It won't be today though. Well, we've been here for some time. Thank you.
All right, thank
you. Could we also ask that Ms. Guerin provide us with any copies of documents that were filed with the Ohio, Pennsylvania Orphans Court? I have contacted the court, and those documents are not public record. So we have the order, we don't have the underlying petition or documents that were filed upon which it was based. And so if Ms. Guerin could provide that to us, that'd be great.
Yes, I can do that. I will say that it's the same exact documentation that was provided for the guardianship in Michigan. It was the accounts of the assessment from Miss Liska, as well as a former assessment done out here in Northampton County by neuropsychologist Dan Medler that I had also provided out in Michigan. But if you would like me to resend those, I certainly can.
What I think we should have is copies of any court papers that you filed resulting in the appointment. There's a petition or something that you filed to get this started.
Sure, I can send that to you.
Thank you.
Yes, if you could send.
I already have a copy of that, Your Honor. That was provided last time, the petition. That's where we confirmed that there was a court date.
Right.
I have that.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll talk to you all about this in April. Did you have a question, Ms. Gary?
I do, because I know that it had stated in the documentation from the county that we reside in, Northampton, regarding the ICPC and allegations that I was not forthcoming in sharing information, and I was resistant to sharing information, and something about a domestic relationship with Ellie and I don't really know what they were implying there. Can I provide to you my doctor's name, whom I've been under his care for my mental health for many years, so that he could provide a statement, which he did provide for the ICPC. So this is all just kind of a shock to me, to be honest, that there's any sort of question regarding my own well-being and capabilities.
Your Honor, I have no objection. She provides a release for me to talk to the doctor, and that will be incorporated in my report.
Yeah, Ms. Karen, we're counting on you communicating with Mr. McFarland and Mr. Winter between now and when we come back in April to supply lots of information, including things like that, so that you do have a chance to really show us, you know, what's happening there, so that we can make the best decision for your daughter moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, what time was the hearing on April 6th? This is continued until?
I would reserve 9 to 11, please.
Okay.
We appreciate your office being part of the hearings on both files, since there's such an overlap.
Well, I'm just standing in for Mr. Amadeo, but I don't know which one of us will be here, but one of us will be.
Great, we appreciate it. Any other questions?
Well, thank you.
Nope.